The large room on Station Kepler was full of important aliens from many different worlds. They wore fancy clothes and spoke in loud voices about trade deals and space routes. The tall blue aliens called Velthari stood in one corner, singing their words like music. The big armored Gorvani stomped around making noise with their heavy feet. Smaller aliens with bug eyes and sharp teeth moved between the groups trying to make deals. In the middle of all this important business, Jinwoo pushed his cleaning cart quietly along the walls. He wore simple gray work clothes that marked him as maintenance staff. To most of the aliens in the room, he was just another piece of equipment that moved around and cleaned things. His cart had wheels that rolled softly on the metal floor. Nobody looked at him twice. Ambassador Nalith from the Velthari planet glanced at Jinwoo as he emptied a trash container near her group. She spoke to her helper in their own language, not caring if anyone heard. "Look at that strange creature," she said in musical tones. "Humans are so weak and soft. They have no claws, no armor, no special powers. I wonder how they even lived long enough to build spaceships." Her helper nodded and made agreeing sounds. The Galactic Council only let them join because they felt sorry for them. "They are good for cleaning and fixing things, I guess. Look at this one. So quiet and scared. He will not even look at us." Jinwoo kept working, moving his cart to the next area that needed cleaning. His dark eyes sometimes looked toward the speakers, but his face stayed calm. The universal translator built into his workstation had been changed long ago to understand many alien languages. This was needed for maintenance work on a station with so many different species. But he had learned early in his job that telling others he could understand them often made them angry or scared. The Gorvani group burst into loud laughter at some joke. Captain Vorthak, their military leader, waved his 4 big arms around. "At least they stay quiet," he said in a voice like thunder, looking at Jinwoo. "Not like the chittering ones who never stop making noise. These humans just exist. Nothing special about them at all." Commander Minji from the human diplomatic team stood at the far end of the room. She was talking with a lizard-like alien about mining rights. She was one of only 3 humans with official jobs on the station. Most other species thought humans were useful for basic work and had a simple charm. But they did not have the special abilities that made for strong friends or dangerous enemies. As Jinwoo worked his way around the room, he heard pieces of many conversations. Aliens talked about trade routes through human space as if humans had no say in the matter. They discussed military plans openly, mentioning human colonies as possible shields in case of war. Nobody thought the quiet cleaning man might be listening, much less understanding every word they said. The afternoon work shift was almost over when loud alarms suddenly filled the diplomatic room. Red emergency lights flashed on the walls and ceiling. Recorded messages echoed through the corridors in many different languages. Warning to all people on the station. Unknown ships are coming toward Station Kepler. All diplomatic staff must go to safe areas right now. The careful calm of the meeting broke apart instantly. Velthari began their special group singing to stay together. Gorvani moved into fighting positions they had practiced many times. Smaller species ran toward emergency exits, their earlier confidence gone like smoke. Through the huge window that looked out into space, sleek black ships came out from behind a nearby asteroid. The ships had red markings that everyone recognized with fear. These were Dracani Syndicate raiders, a group of space pirates who had been attacking outer colonies for months. Intelligence reports said they had advanced weapons and showed no mercy to anyone who fought back. Jinwoo calmly put away his cleaning supplies and walked toward the exit with everyone else. To anyone watching, he looked like just another scared worker trying to get to safety, but his steps were steady and measured. His breathing stayed calm and controlled. His eyes constantly looked around, checking everything about the situation that was developing. The first explosion shook the station as Dracani attack pods smashed through the outer wall. Emergency doors slammed shut automatically, trapping several groups of diplomats in different sections. The main exit from the meeting room sealed tight, leaving about 40 beings of various species locked in what had suddenly become a possible death trap. "Secondary exits are blocked," announced Commander Minji, checking her portable scanner. "It looks like we are stuck here until security can clear a path for us." The Gorvani immediately began setting up a defensive area, their natural warrior training taking over. The Velthari grouped together, their mind-reading abilities letting them plan without words. Other species found whatever cover they could behind furniture and decorative displays. Jinwoo found himself pressed against a wall near the service entrance, still mostly ignored by the others. From his position, he could hear the distant sounds of fighting echoing through the station corridors. Weapon fire shouting in many languages, and the high whine of energy shields under attack, painted a sound picture of a battle that was not going well for the defenders, and the first Draconi raiders broke into the meeting room 20 minutes after the attack began. They moved like liquid shadow, their black armor letting them become partly invisible. Energy weapons cut down 2 Gravani guards before anyone could react properly. What happened next would later be studied by military schools across the galaxy. But at the time, it just looked like a quiet maintenance worker, finally deciding to stop being quite so quiet. The first raider appeared right behind Ambassador Nalith, his plasma blade already coming down toward her blue neck. The weapon never finished its deadly arc. Jinwoo moved with a smoothness that seemed impossible. His cleaning cart, which everyone had ignored as simple equipment, suddenly showed hidden sections as he rolled it between the ambassador and her attacker. The side of the cart opened with a snap, and Jinwoo's hand came out holding what looked like a normal maintenance tool. The tool's plasma torch turned on at maximum power, cutting through the Draconi's special armor like it was made of paper. The raider's shocked expression lasted exactly half a second before Jinwoo's other hand, moving with surgical precision, found the weak spot where the alien's neck met his skull. The whole fight took less than 3 seconds. The Draconi warrior who had brought fear to a dozen worlds dropped to the floor with a wet sound. Jinwoo was already moving toward the next threat before the body finished falling. All 40 beings in the room stared at the quiet maintenance worker, who had just killed an elite Draconi raider with the same calm efficiency he used to fix broken air recyclers. The tools in his hands suddenly looked much more dangerous than they had moments before. Everything they thought they knew about humans was about to change. The second Draconi raider appeared near the group of lizard-like Zentari diplomats. His weapon was already pointing at the scared aliens when Jinwoo's cart somehow rolled into exactly the right position to block the shots. More hidden sections opened on the cart, showing tools that suddenly looked much more threatening in the human's hands. A simple sound device, normally used for tuning equipment, sent out a focused pulse that broke the Draconi's invisibility technology. Suddenly solid and easy to see, the raider found himself facing a human who moved like flowing water. Jinwoo's hands moved in a brief, deadly dance, and the second attacker fell to join his friend on the floor. The third and fourth raiders appeared at the same time, having learned from watching their team members die. They kept their distance and used long-range weapons to try to pin down this unexpected threat that had come from nowhere. Jinwoo showed them why human engineers built maintenance carts so strong and tough. The cart's frame unfolded into a moving shield, its surface showing reactive armor that had been hidden as simple storage panels. Energy blasts designed to punch through military defenses splashed harmlessly against what everyone had thought was just a janitor's cleaning equipment. From behind his makeshift fortress, Jinwoo's hands worked with the quick precision of someone who knew complex machinery perfectly. The cart's waste disposal unit went through a rapid field change, becoming a projectile launcher. The ammunition was metal debris and broken equipment, but in Jinwoo's hands these improvised missiles struck with the accuracy of guided weapons. The first projectile destroyed the third raider's weapon. The second shattered his armor's power supply. The third and final projectile ended the threat permanently. The fourth raider, seeing his entire team eliminated in under a minute, tried to escape using his invisibility technology. Jinwoo calmly adjusted something on his tool, and suddenly the raider could not turn invisible anymore. The human walked over with the same unhurried pace he had used while cleaning, and the raider's attempt to surrender came too late. The meeting room fell silent except for the distant sounds of battle continuing elsewhere in the station. 40 diplomats and officials from 12 different species stared at the quiet maintenance worker who had just eliminated 4 elite Draconi raiders. With the casual efficiency of someone fixing a broken air filter, Jinwoo methodically began converting his cart back to its innocent maintenance appearance. The hidden sections sealed themselves, the reactive armor folded back into ordinary-looking panels, and the improvised weapon systems disguised themselves once again as waste disposal and cleaning equipment. "The service tunnel behind that panel leads to Section C," he said quietly, pointing to what looked like solid wall. Emergency rules will have security teams moving through there in about 12 minutes. Stay quiet, stay together, and keep away from the main corridors. Ambassador Nalith stared at him with her large, glowing eyes. You understand Velthari language? I understand most languages used here, Jinwoo replied, checking something on his scanner. It helps with maintenance work. You would be surprised how many problems get mentioned in casual talk before they are officially reported. Captain Vorthak of the Gorvani stepped forward, his forearms spread in a gesture of respectful question. What are you? Jinwoo looked up from his equipment with a slight smile that did not quite reach his eyes. Maintenance staff. It says so on my uniform. The captain's warrior training recognized the deflection for what it was. That is not what I meant. I know. Jinwoo finished his equipment check and moved toward the service panel he had pointed out. The tunnel system connects to the main evacuation routes. Follow the blue markings, avoid the red ones. The red marks show areas where the life support systems have been damaged. Commander Minji stepped forward. Jinwoo, I think these people deserve an explanation. The maintenance worker paused at the service panel, his hand resting on what looked like a simple access handle. Do they? They have been discussing our species for hours as if we were furniture, talking about trade routes through our space, using our colonies as shields, debating our usefulness for manual labor. Did any of them think to ask what we might want? The assembled diplomats shifted uncomfortably. Several species had the grace to look embarrassed. You were listening, Ambassador Nalith said, more statement than question. I am always listening. It is part of the job. The panel opened with a soft hiss, revealing a well-lit maintenance tunnel. But do not worry. Most of what I heard was fairly typical. Humanity is used to being underestimated. As the group began filing into the tunnel, the Zentari trade representative, an insect-like being named Click, clicked nervously. Those weapons, that equipment. How long have humans possessed such technology? Jinwoo was the last to enter the tunnel, pausing to reseal the panel behind them. We do not possess it, we are it. Every human who works in space carries tools that can be weaponized. Every human who maintains equipment knows how to modify it for combat. Every human who seems harmless has spent their entire evolutionary history learning how to kill things that are bigger, stronger, and better armed than they are. The tunnel journey passed in thoughtful silence. When they finally reached the security checkpoint in Section C, the crisis was beginning to wind down. The Draconi raiders had been driven off, though not without significant casualties among the station's defenders. As the diplomats were processed through security questioning, many of them glanced back at the quiet maintenance worker who had saved their lives. He was already back at work, helping repair damaged systems with the same calm efficiency he had shown while eliminating trained killers. The official reports would note that maintenance technician Jinwoo Kim had provided valuable assistance during the evacuation of diplomatic personnel. The reports would not mention his combat skills, his language abilities, or the advanced technology disguised as cleaning equipment. But the diplomats would remember, and they would begin to ask different questions about humanity. 3 days after the attack, emergency repairs were still ongoing throughout Station Kepler. The diplomatic conference had been suspended indefinitely, but many of the representatives remained, supposedly to assist with damage assessment and security reviews. In reality, most were trying to understand what they had witnessed in the meeting room. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had been hiding in plain sight all along. 3 days after the Draconi attack, emergency repairs were still going on throughout Station Kepler. The diplomatic conference had been stopped for an unknown time, but many of the representatives stayed behind. They said they wanted to help with damage checks and security reviews. In truth, most were trying to understand what they had seen in the meeting room. Jinwoo continued his regular maintenance duties as if nothing had changed. He moved through the corridors with the same quiet efficiency, checking systems, cleaning, and doing routine repairs. The only difference was that now he was being watched. Ambassador Nalith found him in Engineering Bay 7, where he was fixing sensor arrays that had been damaged during the attack. She approached carefully as if expecting him to suddenly turn into something dangerous. Technician Kim, she said formally. Ambassador. He did not look up from his work. The air processors in your quarters should be working properly now. The Raiders' electromagnetic pulse weapons caused some problems with the filtration systems. You fixed them? That is what I do. He made a final adjustment and moved to the next sensor cluster. Was there something specific you needed? Naileth studied him carefully. In the better lighting of the engineering bay, she could see details she had missed before. His hands moved with the exact confidence of someone completely familiar with complex technology. His eyes constantly checked his environment, noting potential problems and solutions. Even his posture suggested someone used to being ready for anything. I wanted to thank you, she said finally, and to apologize. My aide and I were dismissive of your species. We spoke poorly of humans in your presence. Yes, you did. Jinwoo's tone stayed neutral. But you were not saying anything most species do not think. Humans are physically weaker than Gorvani, less technologically advanced than Zentari, not as telepathically gifted as Velthari. By most standard measurements, we are not particularly impressive. Yet you eliminated 4 Draconi Raiders in under 2 minutes. I had good equipment and the advantage of surprise. He finished with the sensor array and moved to check the power coupling systems. The Raiders expected resistance from warriors, not maintenance staff. That equipment, those were not standard maintenance tools. Jinwoo paused in his work and looked at her directly for the first time since she had arrived. Define standard, the question hung in the air between them. Naileth found herself reconsidering everything she thought she knew about human technology and capabilities. Every human maintenance worker carries equipment that can be converted to weapons? She asked. Every human carries equipment that can be used for multiple purposes, Jinwoo corrected. A plasma torch can cut metal or defend against attackers. A sonic calibrator can tune equipment or disrupt enemy technology. A maintenance cart can transport supplies or provide mobile cover. The difference is in application, not design. And every human knows how to make these applications? Every human knows how to survive. He returned to his work but continued talking. Your species evolved on a world with abundant resources and few natural predators. The Gorvani developed on a planet where strength and armor were the keys to survival. The Zentari achieved spaceflight by developing technology to overcome their physical limitations. And humans? Humans evolved on a death world surrounded by creatures that were bigger, stronger, faster, and better armed than we were. We survived by being smarter, more adaptable, and more creative in our use of available resources. Those instincts do not just disappear because we have developed space travel. Ambassador Naileth absorbed this information while watching him work. Is that why you were ignored? Because other species do not recognize these traits as dangerous? We are not dangerous, Jinwoo said quietly. We are what happens when a prey species learns to fight back. Captain Vorthak appeared in the engineering bay entrance, his heavy footsteps announcing his presence. The Gorvani warrior approached with obvious respect, his forearms held in a formal gesture of greeting. Technician Kim, I wish to speak with you. Jinwoo nodded acknowledgement but continued his work. The gravitational compensators in the Gorvani quarters needed recalibration after the attack. They should be functioning within normal parameters now. I thank you for that courtesy. Vorthak's voice carried the deep rumble typical of his species, but there was something else in his tone. Curiosity mixed with professional assessment. I have reviewed the security recordings of our encounter with the Raiders. Oh, your combat techniques do not match any known martial arts in our databases. The movements were efficient. Wasteful motion was eliminated, maximum effect achieved with minimum effort. It reminded me of how a master engineer might approach solving a complex problem. Jinwoo made a small adjustment to the power coupling and straightened. Combat is just another type of problem solving. Identify the goal, assess available resources, implement the most efficient solution. And your goal was? Eliminate the threats, protect the civilians, maintain system integrity. Jinwoo's response was matter-of-fact, as if he were describing routine maintenance procedures. The Raiders represented multiple failure points in the station's security system. I corrected the failures. Vorthak and Naileth exchanged glances. The humans' calm, analytical approach to violence was unlike anything in their experience. Warriors fought with passion, predators killed by instinct. But Jinwoo had eliminated trained killers with the same methodical precision he applied to fixing broken equipment. How many humans possess these capabilities? Vorthak asked. All of them, Commander Minji said as she entered the engineering bay, though most prefer not to demonstrate unless necessary. The three aliens turned to look at the human diplomatic officer. Like Jinwoo, she moved with efficient purpose. But now they could see the constant environmental awareness, the subtle positioning that kept escape routes open, the way her hands remained near tools that could serve as weapons. "Commander," Ambassador Nalith said carefully, "we have been discussing human capabilities. Are we to understand that what we witnessed was typical?" Minji considered the question while watching Jinwoo complete his maintenance tasks. Jinwoo is particularly skilled even by human standards. But the basic principles, adaptability, resource utilization, tactical thinking, these are common traits. We just do not usually have occasion to demonstrate them in diplomatic settings. Because other species have never created occasions where demonstration was necessary, Jinwoo added, packing up his tools. Most of the galaxy views humanity as useful but harmless. We have found it advantageous to maintain that perception. Captain Vorthak's warrior instincts were fully engaged now. Advantageous how? Predators hunt prey they can see coming, Commander Minji explained. Humans learned long ago that the best way to avoid being prey is to not look like a threat until you need to be one. The Gorvani captain processed this information with growing unease. His species' entire military doctrine was based on intimidation and obvious displays of force. The idea of deliberately appearing weak while preparing for conflict was alien to everything he understood about warfare. This is why the Galactic Council accepted humanity so easily, Ambassador Nalith realized. They thought they were gaining useful workers and minor allies. They did not realize they were inviting apex predators into their homes. "We are not predators," Jinwoo said, shouldering his equipment bag. "We are engineers. We solve problems. Sometimes the problems fight back." The message was clear, even delivered in Jinwoo's calm, matter-of-fact tone. Humanity had been underestimated for the last time. 1 week after the Draconi attack, Station Kepler hosted an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from over 30 species had requested emergency sessions to discuss human integration protocols and revised threat assessments. The official agenda spoke of diplomatic cooperation and mutual security concerns. But everyone understood the real purpose: to figure out what humanity actually was. Jinwoo found himself in an unusual position. Instead of being ignored as he performed his maintenance duties, he was being actively observed by beings who now understood that his presence meant they were never truly alone or unheard. Conversations grew more guarded when he entered a room, and several species had requested private meetings to clarify certain misunderstandings. The irony was not lost on him. For years he had been the perfect spy simply by being exactly what he appeared to be, a maintenance worker doing his job. Now that his capabilities were known, he had become far less effective at gathering intelligence, but much more effective at delivering messages. Commander Minji found him in the botanical gardens, where he was adjusting the atmospheric controls for the hydroponic systems. The gardens served multiple purposes: food production, air purification, and psychological comfort for species that required natural environments. They also happened to be one of the few places on the station where conversations could not be easily monitored. "The Zentari Trade Council has requested a formal meeting," she said, without introduction. "They want to discuss revised parameters for human involvement in galactic commerce." Translation: They want to know if we are going to start demanding better terms for trade routes through human space. Jinwoo made a minor adjustment to the nutrient flow systems. "What did you tell them?" "That I would consult with my technical staff." Minji smiled slightly. "Apparently your demonstration has given our diplomatic position considerably more weight." "Good. We have been subsidizing everyone else's expansion for decades while being treated like a minor partner." He moved to the next section of the garden, where Velthari meditation plants grew in carefully maintained soil, imported from their homeworld. "What do the military representatives want?" "Defense cooperation agreements, mutual security pacts, technology sharing arrangements." Minji's expression grew more serious. "Captain Vorthak has been asking very specific questions about human military capabilities. And I have been giving very general answers. But the questions are getting more pointed." She paused by a cluster of Gorvani rock gardens. "Jinwoo, they are scared. The raiders who attacked this station were not random pirates. Intelligence reports suggest they were conducting reconnaissance for something larger." Jinwoo stopped working and looked at her directly. "How much larger?" large enough that species who have spent centuries treating humanity as useful but harmless are suddenly very interested in being our friends. The implications settled between them like a weight. The attack on Station Kepler had not been an isolated incident. It had been a probe, testing defenses and capabilities. The raiders had learned that stations defended by traditional security forces could be breached and held. But they had also learned that humans could eliminate elite forces with improvised weapons and maintenance equipment. They want to know if we are willing to fight, Jinwoo concluded. They want to know if we are able to fight, and if so, whose side we will be on when the time comes. A soft chime indicated that someone was requesting access to the botanical gardens. Minji checked her scanner and noted the incoming visitor's identity. Ambassador Nalith. She has been requesting a meeting for 3 days. Send her in. Might as well hear what the Velthari have to say. The ambassador entered the gardens with the flowing grace typical of her species. But Jinwoo noticed that her movements had become more purposeful, more aware of her surroundings. Like everyone else who had witnessed the events in the meeting room, she was learning to see humans differently. Commander, Technician Kim, thank you for agreeing to meet. She approached carefully, her translucent blue skin showing the subtle color shifts that indicated controlled anxiety. I come with a proposal from the Velthari Assembly. I'm listening, Minji said. Our telepathic networks have detected unusual patterns in the outer systems. Ship movements that suggest coordinated activity. Communications that indicate planning for large-scale operations. The patterns are consistent with preparations for systematic invasion. Jinwoo continued his work on the atmospheric controls while listening. The Dracani? The Dracani are merely one component. Our analysis suggests a coalition of raider groups, displaced military units, and at least 3 unidentified species. The target appears to be the entire outer rim, including human colonies. And the Velthari want our help defending against this threat, Minji concluded. The Velthari want to offer our help in exchange for human assistance. Ambassador Nalith's color patterns shifted to indicate serious intent. Our telepathic networks could provide early warning and coordination. Your tactical capabilities could provide effective response. Jinwoo made a final adjustment to the atmospheric controls and straightened. What makes you think we need your help? Humanity has been defending itself successfully for quite some time. Because the threat is not directed only at humanity, every species in the outer rim is at risk, and divided defenses will fail against coordinated attacks. Nalith's colors shifted again, showing patterns that indicated deep concern. But more importantly, because we have learned that humanity's true capabilities have been understated in our previous assessments. Meaning that if humans are individually capable of what we witnessed, then human military forces represent a significantly different threat level than previously calculated. Other species are reaching the same conclusion. The political landscape is shifting rapidly. Commander Minji absorbed this information with growing understanding. They are not just scared of the raiders. They are scared of us. Some are, Nalith admitted, but others see opportunity. A chance to ally with a species that has been underestimated by everyone, including potential enemies. Jinwoo packed up his maintenance tools and prepared to move to the next section of the gardens. What exactly is the Velthari Assembly proposing? Formal military alliance. Shared intelligence networks. Coordinated defense of all Outer Rim territories. Nalith paused, her colors showing deep uncertainty. And a complete revision of humanity's status in the Galactic Council. From useful workers to equal partners, Minji translated. From minor member species to recognized major power, Nalith corrected. The Assembly believes that humanity's true capabilities properly utilized could shift the balance of power in this region of space. The 3 beings stood among the carefully tended plants from dozens of worlds, each representing species that had found ways to cooperate and thrive together. But the conversation they were having would determine whether that cooperation would survive the coming storm. I will need to consult with Earth Command, Minji said finally. Decisions of this magnitude require input from home. Of course. But Commander, Nalith's colors shifted to patterns indicating urgent warning. The telepathic networks suggest that we have weeks, not months, before the coordinated attacks begin. Decisions will need to be made quickly. After the ambassador left, Minji and Jinwoo continued their walk through the gardens in thoughtful silence. The plants around them represented centuries of careful cultivation and cooperation. But the conversation they had just had threatened to change everything. Earth Command is going to want a full assessment, Minji said eventually. They are going to want to know if we can trust our new allies, and whether we are strong enough to honor the commitments they are asking for. Jinwoo replied, "The first question is easy. The second depends on whether humanity is ready to stop pretending to be harmless." Jinwoo considered this while examining a cluster of earth roses that had been modified to grow in artificial gravity. "We have never been pretending, Commander. We have been waiting. For what? For someone to give us a reason to show them what we are really capable of." His expression grew thoughtful as he looked out through the garden's transparent aluminum windows at the stars beyond. "Looks like we are about to get that reason." The galaxy was about to discover what happened when humanity stopped hiding. 2 weeks later, the first coordinated attacks began exactly as the Velthari telepathic networks had predicted. Raider fleets struck simultaneously at 12 different targets across the Outer Rim, overwhelming local defenses and establishing strongholds for larger invasions. The speed and coordination of the assault stunned military analysts who had expected months of preparation time. Station Kepler became the unofficial coordination center for defensive efforts. Its diplomatic facilities hastily converted to military command posts. Representatives from dozens of species worked around the clock to organize responses to attacks that were stretching their combined resources to the breaking point. Jinwoo found himself in an unexpected role. No longer just a maintenance technician, he had been officially designated as Human Technical Liaison, a position that seemed to involve equal parts engineering consultation and strategic planning. The transformation of his duties reflected humanity's rapidly changing status in galactic affairs. The command center had been established in what was formerly the main conference hall. Holographic displays showed real-time updates from across the Outer Rim, with red indicators marking systems under attack, yellow showing systems preparing for assault, and an increasingly small number of green markers indicating secure territories. "Fortani colony has fallen," announced General Krax of the United Defense Coalition. The multi-species military organization had been formed hastily as the scope of the Raider threat became clear. "That is the 5th agricultural world lost this week. Food supplies for the entire sector are now compromised." Commander Minji studied the tactical displays with growing concern. "What about the evacuation fleets?" "Overwhelmed. The Raiders are specifically targeting civilian transports and supply convoys. They want to create a refugee crisis that will strain our remaining resources." Captain Vorthak, now serving as the Coalition's primary tactical advisor, gestured to a cluster of red indicators near the core systems. "They are not trying to hold territory. They are trying to collapse our infrastructure and force mass population movements. Classic destabilization strategy." Jinwoo approached the main display and began making adjustments to the data filters. His maintenance background gave him a unique perspective on system-wide failures and cascading problems. "They are targeting connection points," he observed, highlighting specific systems on the map. "Look at the pattern. Every system they have hit is a major transit hub, supply depot, or communication relay. They are not just attacking random targets. They are systematically dismantling the network that holds our civilization together." The assembled military leaders studied the new display configuration with growing alarm. When viewed as an infrastructure attack rather than a territorial invasion, the Raiders' strategy became chillingly clear. "How long before complete network collapse?" General Krax asked. Jinwoo ran quick calculations on his portable scanner. "At current rates? 6 weeks, maybe 8. If we can reinforce the critical nodes." "Can we reinforce them?" Commander Minji asked. "Not with conventional forces. We do not have enough ships, and the Raiders are specifically targeting our mobile assets." Captain Vorthak's expression was grim. "Every time we move forces to defend one system, they hit 2 others." The command center fell silent as the implications became clear. The Outer Rim civilization was facing systematic destruction, and traditional military responses were proving inadequate against an enemy that refused to fight conventional battles. "There is another option," Jinwoo said quietly. All eyes turned to the human technician who had become an unlikely strategic advisor. "Explain," General Krax commanded. "The Raiders' strategy depends on our predictable responses. They attack transit hubs. We send ships to defend transit hubs. They target supply depots, we reinforce supply depots. They are staying ahead of us because they know exactly how we will react. And your suggestion? Stop reacting. Start acting. Jinwoo made additional adjustments to the display, highlighting patterns that had been invisible before. Every attack requires supply lines, communication networks, staging areas. The raiders have their own infrastructure, and they think it is invisible because we have been focused on defending our own. Captain Vorthak studied the new data configuration with professional interest. You are suggesting we go on the offensive. I am suggesting we solve the problem instead of just treating the symptoms. Jinwoo's fingers moved across the control interface with practiced efficiency. Maintenance 101. When a system keeps failing, you do not just keep fixing the failures. You identify the root cause and eliminate it. Commander Minji realized where his logic was leading. You want to attack their command structure. I want to eliminate their ability to coordinate these attacks. Cut their communications, disrupt their supply chains, force them to operate as individual raider groups instead of a coordinated invasion force. General Krax's multiple eyes focused on the human with new attention. Do you have specific targets? I have maintenance records for every piece of communication equipment, supply depot, and staging facility in this sector, including the ones that are not supposed to exist. Jinwoo's expression remained calm, but there was something predatory in his eyes now. Funny thing about being maintenance staff, you get access to places that do not officially exist, because even secret bases need their equipment serviced. The revelation that humanity had been inadvertently conducting surveillance on hidden raider facilities for years sent ripples of excitement through the command center. Data that had been collected as routine maintenance information suddenly became invaluable intelligence. How much intelligence do we have? Captain Vorthak asked. Complete infrastructure maps for 17 hidden facilities, partial data on 32 others, equipment specifications, personnel capacity estimates, defensive capabilities. Jinwoo paused, accessing more files on his scanner, and scheduled maintenance windows for their critical systems. Maintenance windows. Times when their defenses are down for system updates, equipment repairs, power grid maintenance. Even raiders need to service their equipment occasionally. The predatory expression intensified, and maintenance staff always know when the security systems will be offline. Commander Minji began to understand the scope of what Jinwoo was proposing. You are not just talking about gathering intelligence. You are talking about sabotage. I am talking about fixing a problem. Permanently. General Krax studied the tactical implications with growing excitement. How many human maintenance workers do we have access to? Every human in space carries maintenance skills. Every human colony has technical specialists. Every human ship has engineering crews who can adapt their equipment for multiple purposes. Jinwoo's smile was sharp enough to cut metal. How many operatives do you need? The answer to that question would reshape the entire conflict. But first, they needed to test the concept on a smaller scale. There is a staging facility in the Kepler-7 system, Captain Vorthak said, studying the intelligence data. Recent raider attacks suggest it is being used as a coordination hub for this entire sector. Scheduled maintenance window in 72 hours, Jinwoo confirmed, checking the facility records. Security grid goes down for 6 hours while they update their sensor arrays. Can it be eliminated? Jinwoo considered the question with the same analytical approach he brought to fixing broken equipment. Yes, but not by traditional military action. Too well defended, too well hidden. Then how? The same way you solve any maintenance problem. You identify the critical failure points and you make sure they fail at exactly the right time. As the command center began planning humanity's first active offensive in the conflict, none of the participants realized they were about to discover what happened when a species of apex predators finally stopped pretending to be harmless. The raiders had made a critical error in their assessment of human capabilities. They had mistaken patience for weakness and adaptive camouflage for genuine harmlessness. They were about to learn the difference. 72 hours later, Jinwoo floated in the darkness of space 3 kilometers from the hidden raider facility. His maintenance suit had been modified with every stealth system available, turning him into a nearly invisible speck against the cosmic background. To any casual observer, he was just another piece of space debris. But debris did not carry enough improvised explosives to level a small moon. The raider base had been carved into an asteroid in the Kepler-7 system, its existence hidden from most sensors by careful engineering and natural interference from the local star. It was a masterpiece of covert construction, designed to be completely invisible to conventional military reconnaissance. Unfortunately for the raiders, it was not invisible to someone who had serviced its environmental system 6 months earlier. Jinwoo checked his chronometer. The maintenance window would begin in 18 minutes, taking the facility's defensive grids offline for scheduled upgrades. During those 6 hours, the base would be vulnerable to exactly the kind of problems that maintenance workers were trained to solve. His equipment pack contained items that would look perfectly normal to any inspector: plasma torches, sonic calibrators, pressure regulators, power coupling adapters, and various diagnostic tools. The fact that each item could serve multiple purposes was simply a testament to human engineering efficiency. The first phase involved accessing the facility's external maintenance ports. Every space installation required external service connections for routine upkeep, and raiders were no different from anyone else in needing their equipment serviced. Jinwoo's access codes were 6 months old, but they had been issued for routine maintenance work, and raiders rarely updated security protocols for such mundane activities. The outer airlock cycled him through with minimal security screening. His identification tagged him as a certified maintenance technician from a legitimate service company, and his equipment passed routine scans without triggering any alerts. The perfect camouflage because it was not camouflage at all. Inside the facility, Jinwoo moved with the confident purpose of someone who belonged exactly where he was. The base layout matched his records perfectly, and his maintenance access allowed him to reach areas that would be restricted to normal visitors. The first objective was the primary power distribution center. Jinwoo approached it with his diagnostic scanner active, looking for all the world like a technician performing routine system checks. The guards he passed barely glanced at him. Maintenance workers were part of the scenery. The power center contained exactly the vulnerabilities he expected. Raider facilities were built for concealment and quick deployment, not long-term reliability. Their power systems ran hot, operated beyond safe parameters, and depended on constant maintenance to prevent catastrophic failures. Jinwoo's plasma torch made several small adjustments to critical components. To anyone watching, he was simply performing routine maintenance work. In reality, he was installing time-delayed failure points that would cascade through the entire power grid in approximately 4 hours. The second objective was the communication array. Located in the asteroid's core, it was heavily shielded and redundantly protected. But it was also connected to the facility's main data network, which required regular maintenance updates and system optimizations. Jinwoo connected his diagnostic equipment to a routine maintenance port and began uploading what appeared to be standard optimization software. The program would improve system efficiency and eliminate minor operational problems. Exactly the kind of routine maintenance that kept complex installations functioning. The program would also introduce subtle coordination errors into outgoing communications, making it increasingly difficult for the facility to maintain contact with other raider bases. The errors would build gradually over time, creating the appearance of natural system degradation rather than deliberate sabotage. The third objective was the life support system. Jinwoo accessed the atmospheric processing center with his standard maintenance credentials and began performing what looked like routine calibration work. His sonic calibrator made minor adjustments to gas mixture controls, optimizing efficiency and eliminating potential health hazards. The modifications would cause gradual atmospheric contamination problems that would force facility evacuation within a week. The contamination would be subtle enough to avoid immediate detection, but severe enough to make the base uninhabitable. Raiders would abandon the facility rather than risk slow poisoning. The fourth and final objective was the weapon systems. Jinwoo's maintenance access allowed him to reach the primary armament control centers, where he performed routine diagnostic checks and system optimizations. His work would improve targeting accuracy and reduce power consumption, exactly the kind of improvements that maintenance staff were expected to provide. The improvements would also introduce cascade failure points in the weapon system's power supplies. When triggered, these failures would disable the base's offensive capabilities permanently, leaving it defended only by shields and conventional barriers. By the time Jinwoo completed his work and departed through the same maintenance airlock, he had transformed a hidden raider stronghold into a ticking time bomb. But unlike conventional explosives, his sabotage would unfold over days and weeks, creating the appearance of natural system failures rather than enemy action. The beauty of the approach was its invisibility. Raiders would lose communication capability and be forced to evacuate due to life support problems, but they would never know they had been attacked. The facility would simply become unreliable and uninhabitable, a victim of poor maintenance and system aging. As Jinwoo's stealth-modified maintenance craft departed the Kepler-7 system, similar operations were beginning at 16 other Raider facilities across the Outer Rim. Human maintenance workers who had been ignored and dismissed for years were finally demonstrating what they were truly capable of. The Raiders had built their strategy around the assumption that their hidden bases were invisible and secure. They had never considered that the same maintenance workers who serviced legitimate facilities might also service illegitimate ones, and that those workers might remember exactly where everything was located. Humanity's first offensive action in the conflict was not a military assault or a diplomatic maneuver. It was a coordinated maintenance operation that would systematically eliminate the Raiders' ability to sustain their invasion. Within a week, Raider communication networks began experiencing unexplained difficulties. Within 2 weeks, several major staging facilities were abandoned due to life support failures. Within 3 weeks, the coordinated invasion had collapsed into scattered, uncoordinated attacks by individual Raider groups operating without central command. The other species in the defense coalition watched in amazement as humanity solved a military problem using maintenance techniques. The approach was so far outside conventional military thinking that it took most commanders days to understand what had actually happened. But Jinwoo understood perfectly. He had simply identified a system that was causing problems and fixed it permanently. The fact that the system happened to be a Raider invasion force was just another maintenance challenge. As he filed his routine maintenance reports and prepared for his next assignment, Jinwoo reflected on the broader implications of what humanity had just accomplished. For the first time in galactic history, a species had eliminated a major military threat using purely technical means. The Raiders had learned too late that human maintenance workers were not just skilled technicians. They were apex predators who had learned to camouflage themselves as useful support staff while gathering intelligence and preparing for exactly this kind of systematic response. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The quiet maintenance workers, the helpful engineers, the unassuming technical staff, they were all potential weapons waiting for the right moment to act. Humanity had finally revealed its true nature, and the revelation would reshape interstellar politics for generations to come. They were not just another species seeking their place among the stars. They were the galaxy's newest apex predators, and they had been hiding in plain sight all along. The age of underestimating humanity was over,